friends, and welcome back to our Stardew life. It's been a couple weeks since our last video, and there's a few more of you out there watching, so hello and welcome everyone. It's good to see you. Those of you who I already know, hello and welcome. Those of you who I've never met, hi, I'm Paul. Nice to meet you. When last I checked in with you guys, we had just finished dealing with the issues that came up because of our pump. The pipes were frozen, we used a space heater to thaw it out, used that as a temporary solution to get everything heated back up. However, my lovely wife came up with a very elegant solution after talking to some of her coworkers. They recommended something called heat tape, which is a filament you wrap around the pipes, or you adhere to the pipes, and it heats the actual copper pipe itself. So you can run it along the length of an area that is problematic, such as directly where our well comes into the reservoir, and heat that section to keep the pipe from freezing. We put some of that in place a few days after we sorted out the issue with the pipes, and since then we have not had any issues. It hasn't been super cold consistently since then, but we have had some cold nights and we have not had any further issues. But no sooner did we get the pipes sorted out and the well resolved, and that project that we were not anticipating sorted, that I came down with a small case of COVID-19. Knocked me out of commission for about a week, give or take, and I'm feeling much better now, which is good. I'm back to work, I'm back on my feet, I'm no longer laying in bed. Now, thankfully, no one else in the house tested positive, no one else in the house was symptomatic. It's been about a week since I recovered, and things are still going well here, so thankfully it looks like the only one who got sick was me. Now, since I work from home, I don't go to school, I don't work out of the house, I'm the one who leaves the house the least, so we still have no idea where the hell I would have caught it, that no one else would have got exposed. But what we're thinking is, while someone else in the family may have been exposed, they didn't catch it thanks to being vaccinated and whatnot. Now, that's not to say I'm not vaccinated. I am, but luck of the draw, it's not 100% protection, so there I went getting myself sick. But fully recovered, back on my feet, back to my normal routine, and just as we're starting to look into preparing for the spring, I was looking up some tractors online. I'm stuck in the debate, should I get a snowblower and a ride-on lawnmower? Or should I get a tractor that can do both, like a small lawn tractor that I can get a snowblower attachment for? Would it be better to have multi-purpose in a single vehicle, or would it be more cost-effective to maintain smaller, less expensive single-purpose vehicles that I can maintain? And so we were going over the budget for these questions and figuring out what would be feasible when our next big project slapped me in the face like a wet salmon. You see, our first power bill that we got since we moved in here was for about a month, and that was the month while we were moving in. It was fall, it was beautiful, but then the first day that I actually start seriously looking into where to put my funds for the budget of the tractor or the lawnmower, whatever the case may be, I received the first bill for the winter power consumption of the house. Now, I anticipated that it would be a couple $100 more per month in the winter than it would be in the fall, because we have electric heat, and our water pump is electric, and our water heater is electric, stove is electric, everything in the house runs on electricity. The computer over here that I use to do my job runs on electricity. Like, we are a very electrically generated home. But that couple hundred higher was not quite where things fell. See, my first bill was a little over $400, and that included the setup costs of the house. New electrical circuit requires setup fees. All is fine and dandy there, but then I got the bill for 64 days worth of time, and I'm expecting 2 months of power is gonna run about $1,200, maybe $1,300, $2,100 and change for 2 months worth of power. I damn near shit when I saw that bill. I immediately stopped looking into tractors, stopped looking into lawnmowers, paid off that $2,000 bill and thought, what the beans? What the crap? What do I do to stop this? I could not afford $1,000 a month for power during the winter. Now, I do understand winter's going to be more expensive than the summer, so maybe it'll even itself out in the wash, but I can't take that chance. So we got a couple things that we immediately started looking into, which are going to be the new projects coming up. One of which, I need to figure out how to better insulate this house. The wife and I spent the last couple of days putting plastic on all the windows because we have a lot of windows in this house. So hopefully those plastic sheets will help to insulate things. It is an old house and the basement is not at all properly insulated, so I'm probably going to have to look into how to better insulate the basement. I know I already needed to do a cleanup of the basement anyways. This is just all the more reason to get that done. And we turned the overall heat in the house down. See, we had the heat pumps. There's 6 units. They're the small wall-based units. And we've had them running 21 degrees Celsius, which is just under 70 degrees Fahrenheit, since we moved in. We don't have them set to turn off at all because someone's always home, and we figured turning them off would just let that room cool, and then it would cost more to heat it back up. But doing some research, I'm finding that having them running 24/7 is actually worse. Also, for every degree higher you put the unit, it's about a 2 to 2.5% difference in electric consumption. So the first thing we did was we took everything that was at 21 degrees and we cut it down a couple degrees. So we've got my office, the bedrooms all running at 18 degrees, and the living room and piano room are running at 19. Additionally, we put in a schedule on each of the units. The main floor 3 units, so the living room, piano room, and my office, they shut off at night, about 10:30 at night, depending on the unit. My office, because I tend to work late, is the one that shuts off last, shutting off at 11. And then they turn back on at about 6 in the morning when people are starting to wake up and come downstairs. Alternatively, the bedrooms are turning on in the early evening and turning off in the morning after the children are gone to school, the wife has gone to work, and I'm down here because they're not needed. So that alone should hopefully cut down the bill by about 30% because I'm bringing the time that everything is on down by about 7 or 8 hours a day. Cutting down the usage time by 30%, bringing the degrees down by 3 degrees. That hopefully will help. Additionally, our front door is a double door setup, so it's got a small room with 2 doors. And our side entrance has a separate door separating the mud room from the rest of the house. So we need to get into a habit of keeping those double doors and those isolating doors closed. So those non-insulated parts of the house or exterior-facing parts of the house aren't open to the rest of the home, letting all of our heat just flow away. Now those are all minor things to help reduce the need to heat the house, and that'll help in the summer too. It will reduce the need to cool the house on the really hot days. On cooler days, we'll obviously just have the windows open in the summer and spring and fall. So hopefully that will bring our bill down significantly over those months, and then these winter months are just where we'll be more prepared for the heavy hit. Additionally, I've already been reaching out to some, electrical companies that deal in solar to start getting some quotes on if I add solar to the house, can I use that to offset things? Thankfully, where I live, the power company does have a 1-to-1 credit type system, so if you generate more power than you're using, it feeds back into the grid, and those are negative kilowatt hours for your consumption. And then days that you're using more power, you draw from the grid, and that's positive kilowatt hours of consumption. So during summer days when I'm not using the heat pumps and the solar is running well, if I'm consuming less than I'm producing, that's just credit. And at the very least, it'll reduce our bill. Now, I know solar is expensive of a project, but there's a bunch of government grants and whatnot that make it so it can offset some of the cost. Not all of it, but some of it. Various government rebates. So we're looking into that as a project as well. I'm not really liking that most of my projects lately are being derived out of necessity as opposed to desire, but that's the way it goes when you buy an old house and you're living, out in the middle of nowhere. We also had 2 power outages last week due to poor weather. That marks now 5 power outages this winter alone. So we are thinking as well of potentially getting a backup generator, but that's now a lower priority than the obscene power bills that we are dealing with. So yeah, that's probably gonna be a big chunk of this winter, is sorting out our heating issue and bringing those costs down. Now, I'm perfectly comfortable with the house at 18 degrees. It's not that cold, but that's also because I am a larger man and have my own built-in insulation, and I likes the flannel, and the flannel is warm. However, not all my children are fans of the flannel, so they're more in the style of hoodies. But as long as we are dressing appropriately, we just need to get into a mindset of keeping warmer clothes on during the winter to help offset some of the cost of heating. I'm also going to have to finish processing all that wood that we got around the yards because I need to rebuild our firewood supply for next winter. There is no way we're going to have much left over by the end of this winter because I've got the fires going almost consistently now just to help supplement that heat and reduce the cost of the electrical heat. Before, we had a standing rule in the house where we didn't, turn on the fireplaces unless the temperature was going to be sub-zero. And granted, it is sub-zero, but now I think we're just going to keep it on as long as the heaters are on, the fireplaces are on, so long as we have the wood to do it. Now, we're not keeping them roaring, we're keeping them nice hot embers and a single log in every 3 to 4 hours just to keep those embers going, as opposed to the big roaring fire. But if it gets cold enough, we'll throw a couple extra in and get that fire going and get that heat out there. I did insinuate in the beginning of the channel that I would bring you guys along, not just for the wins and the victories, but also for the small fails. And this is a $2,100 slap to the face fail that hopefully we can get past. That is how our past 2 weeks have gone, and that is how we have been handling the first winter here in the homestead. We're now near the end of January. I think we've got 1 more month of really cold weather ahead of us, and then it'll start to taper off as March and April approach. We could still have some cold weather through March and April. You never know. It is Canada. The weather is unpredictable. I mean, yesterday it was 10 degrees above zero here. Like, it was unseasonably warm, and now today it's back to -10. So that's a 20-degree jump. It went from -10, +10, -10, all in a 48-hour period. That's 20 degrees plus or minus is not really a small change. So the weather here is always got you on your toes. If you don't like the weather, just wait a couple of days because it's bound to change. Hey guys, Paul from like a day after I recorded the last video here. I just had an idea of something I can do. It's a little bright out here, which is why I'm squinting. Don't have my sunglasses on. Just got back from dropping the child off at work. And I thought, I have an idea of how I can not necessarily fix my power problem, but get better information on it. While I'm not going to show the actual account number and whatnot, this is our power meter, right? And with that power meter, I'm able to find out how much power I've consumed. If I compare this number, well, when it comes up, it fluctuates through a bunch of numbers. But if I can compare that to the actual numbers on the bill that I had and gather some data, I might be able to not necessarily fix the power consumption issue. That'll take a lot longer, but I will be able to accurately gauge if anything I'm doing is making a difference and if I'm having any positive benefit, and if nothing else, not be so surprised when the next bill comes in, because I will be gathering how much kilowatt hours I'm using on a steady basis. I can chart it out, see what days I'm using more, what time of day I'm using more if I check it in the morning and at the night as well. So I'm gonna put together a spreadsheet. I'm gonna gather some data. Tasty, tasty data. Also, while out here, I remembered that I had a mini heart attack during our power outage about a week ago. So right here, we got the SUV, right? This is the car the wife uses. Where this is sitting is where the Firebird was sitting during the power outage. And when I first came outside to check on the power outage and see if there's any downed lines or whatever, I had a mini heart attack, as sitting on top of the Firebird was this massive log here that is longer than the car itself was dangling from up here. There, right? There is where it broke off. And that was hanging down right on the front of my Firebird. And it had actually broken in half. Both this piece here, as well as that larger piece, were on the Firebird. Now, the Firebird is safely back in the garage, where it will remain for the winter now. It's my fault for having it out. And while my laziness normally does not behoove me well, I must say that it did seem that it had a lot less damage on it, simply because I didn't clean the snow off of it. The snow almost seems to have acted like an airbag, because the branch didn't scratch the paint, it didn't break the windshield, it just landed on it, but the snow absorbed the impact. Anyways, back to Paul that's sitting at his desk. Only other update I can think of is the story of the cats. So we have many cats, for those of you who know. Those of you who don't, we had 4 cats when we moved here. I have Kitten, Missy, and Patches. And then through the wife, we also have Bella. She brought Bella with her when we got together. Kitten I have had for many, many years. Missy and Patches were my mother's cats that then ended up being left to me when my mother passed. And one of our children had a cat by the name of Kara. Unfortunately, we lost Kara shortly before the move to the new house. So we did get a new cat, a big orange tabby by the name of Pumpkin. Now, Pumpkin's the only boy in the house, and he was not getting along well with the old lady cats. He is a young male cat, and all the girl cats are fairly up there in the age. They're grumpy. They're not big fans of change or new people or new cats. And getting them with each other to the point where they got along and could be, cohabitating was proving a challenge. It almost got to the point where after a month and a half of Pumpkin not being able to be intermingled successfully without there being obscene amounts of fighting, that we were actually considering that our home may not be a good fit for Pumpkin. But by the grace of God, or whatever you may say, Pumpkin is now somewhat getting along. The only real sticklers is if Pumpkin comes too close to a cat too fast, the other cat will growl and there may be a little hissing, but then they go about their separate way. Usually. The exception being Kitten here, who up until me picking her up and holding her, was sitting up on my desk over there. She's not a big fan of being held, but she is the one who is still getting along the least with Pumpkin. Now, they're not outwardly attacking each other anymore, but anytime Pumpkin is even within visual range, Kitten starts to growl, this guttural growl. And I've noticed that if she growls enough and Pumpkin notices, he'll stare at her. And he won't leave, and he'll just stare and get closer and stare. And then he might run up to her and stop a foot away from her face. As she then backs up, gets a little hissy, he'll just look at her. And then he'll go away. He won't attack her, but it's like he's egging her on, oh, you're gonna growl at me, I'll give you something to growl about. So we are still keeping Kitten separate at night, keeping her in the room with the wife and I, which is where she spends her time anyways. We're just keeping Pumpkin out of our room at nighttime so that Kitten's growling doesn't keep my wife awake. But them getting along better now is definitely a positive thing. It bodes well for Pumpkin remaining here, and it has just made our family that much bigger and that much more interesting, and I am no longer the only male in the household. That's all I have to update you guys on right now. I will let you guys know how things go with the installation, and hopefully that can help with our power costs, and I'll let you guys know if there's any success from the changes we've made, and let you guys know what we did that works, what we did that didn't, and go from there. But until I talk to you guys again, take care of yourselves, have a good morning, good afternoon, a good evening, and a good night wherever you are. Take care.